Hi there. I'm making this short video to quickly address an idea I've seen floating around recently, which goes that somehow George R.R. Martin is late on finishing The Winds of Winter, specifically because he has been heavily rewriting future books after the backlash to the ending of the Game of Thrones TV series in 2019. And on top of this, tied in with this, that Martin doesn't publicly criticize Benioff and Weiss because he sympathizes with them or feels ashamed that the end of the TV show was bad because they didn't have finished books to base it on. That simultaneously the broad strokes outline is what his books are going to do, but it would have been better with a full book that he didn't give them or something. And that Winds of Winter is late because he is now doing rewrites in response to the TV ending and how people hated it. This makes no sense. This is gibberish. And it makes so little sense it can be quickly dismissed. That's why I don't need to make an hour-long video for this with point-by-point citations. This is a meme, a thought-terminating cliche that falls apart in 2 minutes. And that's how memes and propaganda work. They're short, clear, and to the point, makes them easier to convey, versus if I had a whole evidence-based research paper for an hour long that actually has less impact than a catchphrase or a meme like that. So I'm going for brevity here, which is hard to be succinct, but it's so blatantly wrong that, yeah, I can disprove it in all 3 sentences, because there's 3 points that we can dismiss that out of hand. I could fit this in a tweet, it's so short. First, Benioff and Weiss were already making drastic changes long before they ran out of print books. This is a major thing we've had to repeat over and over again. Second, Winds of Winter was already long overdue, well before the final TV season in 2019. So you can't really cite these alleged rewrites that are not being made as somehow responsible for that delay. And tied in with that, third point, Martin has made massive progress on Winds of Winter during COVID lockdown, 2020 through 2022, which was after the final TV season. So no, he's not starting over again from a lower page count. He gives us page counts, and they've gone consistently up. There was this huge burst of writing during COVID. So how can you say it must be delayed because he's doing rewrites? There is no reason to think that at all. So how long did it take me to say this? About 3 minutes, minus my preamble and everything. To give you a little more detail on these 3 points. First, that Benioff and Weiss were making drastic changes since the beginning, long before they ran out of print books, and we've had to say this over and over again, that these changes were so controversial at the time, specifically because this isn't what the books did, this is going off book. I am openly surprised people seem to have forgotten about this. How can you assume Season 8 reflects the real ending of the story when Season 5 onward barely resembles his printed books? And I guess it's just people who focused purely on, oh no, everything else doesn't matter, compartmentalize. The Jon Snow, Daenerys, and Tyrion stuff was decent through Season 6. The same things that happened to them as they were ruined in Season 7 and 8 happened to other characters Season 5 onward. Sansa, Stannis, Dorne. It's just that was your turn, and it is infuriating that rather than admit, because of the sunk cost fallacy, wow, we should have caught on to Benioff and Weiss sooner. People who gave them a free pass for Season 5 because, that's just the Sansa storyline. Oh, Arya killing the Night King ruins Arya. This Arya story makes no sense. But Arya was good through Season 6. No, she had that terrible fight scene that made no sense, and plot armor. These were a pattern of writing, which, as I've said before on my channel, is they were just blatantly showing off the actors. They talk about this in the commentary, that when you realize they were done, wanted to move on with their careers, so they were just pandering actors for awards and hero shots, and they'd move things around to make way for that. Like, TV Dorn exists to show off Indira Varma because they like that actress, she's a famous actress. Or the Sansa Rape exists to win Emmy Awards. It's not for story condensation, it's not even for shock value. And they made these heavy changes in Season 5, and the entire complaint was, this isn't what the print books did. Now you're going to turn around and say it's Martin's fault for not finishing the later books. They were already well off book before they ran out of books. And even earlier things like cutting Lady Stoneheart, or the Taisha reveal for why Tyrion kills his own father in Season 4. Season 2 is when we were noticing these bizarre changes, like Jane Westerling to Talissa. Later found out it's because Martin insisted, change the name, this isn't the character I wrote. And why do they make it like that? They later admitted, we wanted to show off the Robb Stark actor Richard Madden in a generic romance to pander him as a romantic lead. And they rewrote the story, and he marries for love, which isn't what the books did, it's misplaced honor. So much that Martin said, change the name, this isn't what I wrote. So these changes were going on arguably since Season 1, but clearly don't you remember the complaints we had in Season 2? Particularly Season 5? And how people have the short-term memory or audacity, or just the propaganda barrage to say, oh no, they ran out of books. No, they didn't. That's why there was a controversy. That's why we know the entire reason the Sansa Rape is controversy is because this isn't her storyline. And then to say, well, Martin must feel bad that this could not reflect his ending for so many subplots, even if one or two things are on the most broad level vaguely similar. Was the Sansa Rape and TV Dorn in Season 5 there because Martin didn't have a finished book for them? No, that's what happens in books 4 and 5. They cut it out. And whatever outline he told them, they largely ignored. But even ignoring it, because we can't for certain say what's going on behind the scenes with storylines or how accurate is accurate, even setting that aside, point 2, we were complaining every year, day by day, Winds of Winter is stalled and overdue. We thought we'd get it around 2017-ish, if maybe a year later, because the last 2 books came out every 6 years. There was a 6-year gap from Feast for Crows, Book 4 in 2005, to Book 5 in 2011. Book 3 was 6 years before Book 4, so okay, 5 to 6 year gap. 2017 is when we thought it was reasonable to expect Winds of Winter, realistically. That is the point where Martin said, hey, you can arrest me if I don't have it done yet. That's when people really said it was overdue, and that was 2 or 3 years before the final season. So this specific argument that Martin has gone back and is doing rewrites in reaction to the ending of the TV show are what's slowing down Winds, it was already years overdue before Season 8 even aired. So how can you say that? And on top of this, as we later learned, point 3 now, Martin barely got any writing done on Winds in all of the 2010s. Roughly a decade, only to then sit down and write about 40% of the book during pandemic lockdown, after the final season, as has been diligently covered by YouTuber Preston Jacobs. From 2011 through basically 2020, he would publicly say how much, as a fraction, he's done. And consistently for 10 years, he said, I'm about a third done. And Preston pointed out that third were the chapters left over from Book 4 and 5 when he combined Feast Dance. That third is leftover chapters from the last book that he had to cut for length because it was too long and push into the next one. So in many ways, he got no real writing done on Winds throughout the run of Game of Thrones for 10 years. No appreciable progress. And he was stalled long before they even started going off book. This is a man who had the Myronese knot thing, where books 4 and 5 were stalled for many years when he used to be cranking out the first 3 pretty quickly. Within the space of about 5 years, he made the first 3, which are really long. So whatever reasons Martin has for being delayed with wins, it's because he's a gardener and a perfectionist and it grew too big, but it has nothing to do with him reacting to the TV show. This was going on already. He's prone to do this. You've seen this. And if, hypothetically, he was rewriting parts of Winds of Winter that the TV show accurately showed and that people didn't like, wouldn't he have then been giving lower page counts by 2020? That he said, I got a third done for 10 years. That was left over. Then when he was in COVID lockdown, as he said, in my cabin with my typewriter, not really, but with no outside distractions during quarantine, by 2022, he said, I got up to about 3/4 done by raw page count. Obviously, he saves the hard chapters for last, so it's hard to gauge as a rate of progress. But he went from being stuck at a third done for a decade to, I'm about 3/4 done, so 33%, 75%, about 40% of the book got done after Game of Thrones' final season, after being stalled for 10 years. And hypothetically, if it was this scenario of, no, he's rewriting it in response to everything, you would have seen him say something like, I'm 2/3 done in 2017, and then 2020 starts saying I'm about a third done. And we would have jumped all over. People would have been remarking on, wow, he gave a lower page count. He must be rewriting things and starting over. That didn't happen. Pausing emphasis, that didn't happen. He isn't taking long. He was already overdue before the show ended. And he got a lot done after it ended, not related to that, but because he was alone during the pandemic. So I don't know how anyone can support the idea. Not really, it's not a coherent thesis, it's just a meme that falls apart in, as I showed, 2 to 3 minutes at the beginning of this, that the idea that Winds is delayed because Season 8 faithfully adapted Martin's book story, so he went back to heavily rewrite it. This show blatantly stopped following the books in Season 5. It is insulting that you are pretending that the Sansa raped Dorne, what they butchered Stannis, that so many people, rather than admit they were wrong to keep supporting Benioff and Weiss through Season 5, at the time people compartmentalized and said, I'm so invested in this, I want the mystery of the White Walkers and the prince that was promised with Jon Snow and Daenerys, I am willing to let them ruin Sansa and ruin Stannis. Circular logic that, well, if they ruined them, they must not have been important. Up until it was your turn, and they even ruined the Jon Snow stuff. And I had the same reaction when Arya killed the Night King that every other book fan I've talked to has had, that they burst out laughing. Because we realized, and I've really talked to other people about this, they had the same realization that everyone who rationalized and was willing to give them a pass on all of the offensive controversies and changes they had done up to this point, because no, we're going to get the answer to the Jon Snow thing. No, nothing was sacred to them. They weren't making it more succinct to just focus on the White Walkers storyline. They didn't care about anything. And thankfully, some people, increasingly more people, are turning around and saying, in retrospect, I should have turned on the show after Season 5. I was just too invested in it and wanted to think it wasn't true. That no, this has no purpose. They're going to ruin everything. But it's still upsetting to see people in the comment sections going, well, no, the show got bad at the end. This is the entire second half. 4 seasons out of 8 are not Martin's story. There are some broad similarities tapering off, like Daenerys' storyline is admittedly presentable through Season 6. Jon's is presentable from an action level, even though Battle of the Bastards makes no story logic whatsoever, and isn't actually that good, it's just showing off Kit for awards. This was the entire second half, not the ending. And some people say Season 8, some go, well, 7 and 8 together, they're one. No. It is really offensive, and this is the narrative we need to seize back, that, oh, well, they ran out of books. They never ran out of books. You were trying to forget that all of these controversies happened until it happened to you. Martin can't be sad that he didn't give them finished books for storylines they already ruined from his books, which is why they were controversies in the first place. Martin was infamously overdue with Winds of Winter before the final season even aired. And as others such as Preston Jacobs have reported, Martin has consistently said his page count has gone up, that he got this 40% of the book done after Game of Thrones ended. How could he be doing rewrites based on anything the show did? That makes no sense. So I don't know how that's spreading, and if anyone in the comments section, that you can tell there's always one or two people who just see the title of the video and then respond without even finishing to the end or listening to what I have to say. If I'm going to see comments in this going, well, of course it's Martin's fault for not finishing the books in time. That's why the Sansa rape happened. That, please make those comments. It lets me know who to permanently block, to weed out from my channel, because you don't deserve to have a voice here. If you're engaging and disagreeing with me, that's different. But if I can tell you didn't even watch the whole video, and my entire point of listen to I said in 3 minutes, Winds was already overdue. You think rewrites are happening? That the answer to that is just shut that kind of person out, rather than give them the echo chamber. So, exactly how much or how little the TV show reflected the book ending will, of course, be up for debate. But in terms of that Martin feels bad for them, no. Why would he apologize for? They were already making drastic changes, and this could not possibly be the cause of the delay for Winds of Winter. It doesn't tie in with that at all.